This is Jordan Poyer, safety for the Buffalo Bills, and you are now listening to Cover One Buffalo Podcast. Let's go.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo Podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, on this beautiful Victory Sunday. Aaron Quinn, you look festive.
It's Christmas season, baby. You know, if anybody knows that, you know that.
Oh, it was a little scary, some anxiety today. You know, ultimately, the Buffalo Bills pull out a 27-17 victory. They win by 10 points. They cover the spread. They beat a team they were supposed to beat. I don't know if it felt like that the whole time.
No, it's a really weird game, and we'll dive into some of the wonkiness. But at the end of the day, we talk about it a lot here. It doesn't really matter how you win, but the Bills have 8 wins. Pick up an additional AFC win here. We've talked about that a lot with Miami sort of on the heels of the Bills here. And if they can make a run at the division, I think this type of win says no. They probably can't make a run at the division. So I don't care how it happened. We'll get into a little bit of it, but after this show today, I'm kind of over how they won and just that they got another win, and now it's time to stack them.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's something where getting a win like this when you're supposed to, despite some really questionable calls, despite not Josh Allen's best game, all of those things together, and you still get a 10-point win against a talented team. That's what good teams do. This wasn't a great game. This wasn't your best day. You had a lot of things going against you, and you still covered the spread and won by double digits. That's a positive. That's a good thing. And that despite, we're going to get into some of the not great things that happened here today, that's certainly something that Bills fans can hold tight to, that there were more positives than negatives today.
Yeah, actually, so I put out a tweet here right before we went live saying my biggest takeaway, and I can't wait to talk about it, is this was a win that looked like a 2019 Bills defensive win, right? Holding an opponent to such a low-scoring game. And somebody tweeted, I forget who, I'll have to go back and read it, but somebody in my mentions said, like it also looked like the 2019 Bills offense. And they said, hey, man, the Bills 2019 offense turns the ball over 3 times. They don't score this many points. Like, you just don't get
they don't put up
a performance
27.
like this. They don't put up 27 points after turning the ball over 3 times. So, again, this was something we talked about the last couple of weeks, Greg. This defense trending in the right direction. This offense is not the offense of the past. Even with a game littered with mistakes throughout the second half, they were still able to put up 27. They hold a high potent offense under 20 points. That's a good sign for Bills. Even with all the ugly and sloppiness of this game that we're about to break down, that is a good sign that things are trending in the right direction at the right time.
Yeah, and you know, we'll get into a little bit more here into the details we normally do, but want to say thank you to our sponsors, Uncle Jumbo's presenting today, and our friends over at West Her. Thank you guys for putting this together today. All right, so we're going to go through bit by bit here. You know, you said it pre-show, this was a game that was billed as a showdown between 2 up-and-coming, athletic, you know, exciting quarterbacks, both playing really good ball. I don't know if that's what I saw today.
Well, what I did see today was what sort of you mentioned on the pregame show, and when we were talking about Herbert, is I think some of it is garbage and inflated stats that he's had this year, and some of the throws that he's made, like, I know he's had a statistically good rookie season, but when Josh Allen made similar throws, it was all over Twitter and just getting murdered. He definitely did his team a disservice for the most part of today. He missed wide open guys. I remember there was that one, I think it was like a second down in the second half to Eckler. Eckler had nothing but open field.
Tons
and
of space.
He put it like 2 feet over his head. And and granted, the Bills got him out of the pocket, but Herbert's supposed to make those throws, right? Athletic guy on the move, supposed to be able to make those throws. If Josh Allen does that, guys, we don't hear the end of it from every analyst across the entire Twitterverse. So he had a lot of those, and that's really, I think, the thing that kept this Bills defense in the game at times. They still played good and got pressure on him and made him throw some of those throws, but I'll tell you, man, he definitely didn't do his team any favors for the most part today.
Yeah, and, you know, we'll get into Justin Herbert in a bit. It wasn't Josh Allen's best game. You know, 18 to 24 for 157. Had a touchdown, had obviously the passing touchdown from Cole Beasley was a fun play. We'll get to that in a bit. His interception was terrible. It was, you know, badly timed. in a spot where you're trying to salt away a lead, in one of the few spots where a sack isn't the end of the world and you can live to fight another day, and just throws it up in a really rough spot. Had a fumble where, I don't want to presume exactly what could have happened, but looked like he had a chance to just fall on the ball and just retain possession.
In field goal range.
Yes, in field goal range after another critical play we'll get to here in a bit. But going through and doing those things, it was really ugly in the way that it came together. So, ultimately, he ran for a touchdown. I thought that his first half was really good. I thought he had a couple drives that were solid, but some of those questionable plays where it's him wanting to make a play, it's him wanting to pick up a fumble and still get extra yards, it's him wanting to make a great corner pass to Stephon Diggs while he's getting pulled down, it's still inside him. Just all Bills fans have to brace for the fact that we're going to go as far as he takes us. He can take us a long way. He also can be the reason that we're going to get frustrated.
Yeah, and I think some of the lack of stats we're going to see in the box score is they ran him a number of times in this game. I forget exactly how many rushing attempts he had right here. He had 9. That's above where you and I typically would like him to be. Yeah. He was up there. They also had on that first drive
the 47-yard DPI.
47-yard DPI that hurts. It gives your team points, so it doesn't hurt, but it hurts his potential stats because they didn't need that 47 yards to make that drive. So there were some other things in there too. The running game, they did kind of lean on the running game a little bit more today and got that going at times throughout the day too. So they didn't need him to play his best football today, but he definitely put them in a position to lose that game twice with the interception and that fumble. So that's scary. He had a couple of those plays where you just take the sack, don't try to put the ball up in the air. That could have been problematic. Another thing that didn't go Josh's way today, and it's not even his fault, is Joey Bosa was the best football player on the field today. And it wasn't even close. He destroyed
He's even better when you don't block him. He's even better when you leave him unblocked.
It was incredible. And even blocked, though, he was just throwing guys off. Bills didn't have a lot of answers for Joey Bosa today, and he made a huge impact on that game. And I think that might have been in Josh's head a little bit, because he was playing more uncomfortably than I've seen him play so far this year.
Well, and I think you take the combination, I counted 3 plays where we helped Joey Bosa, trying to put him one-on-one against Dawson Knox, trying to have him get walled off by Gabe Davis, and then a miscommunication between Winters and Williams trying to hand him off that he came untouched. So 3 plays that we gave to the most talented player on the field. And then he blew up other stuff because he's really freaking good and he's the most talented player on the field. So you combine that, so that's in Josh's head. You have a really ugly injury that live, I thought Josh Allen broke his lower leg in a similar Dak Prescott type injury, or at minimum was a 4 to 6 week high ankle sprain, and that he was going to be done for basically the season for the regular season. The fact that I don't know what kind of vibranium his lower leg is built out of, but the fact that didn't break and that he was there, those kind of things are in his head, that he was that close to a nasty injury, that Bosa's coming off the edge over and over again. They're bringing a lot of pressure on several plays. I don't fault him for that, but whatever. And I know, so Chris is bringing it up here. I got a lot of this during the game. You can set a game plan for Aaron Donald and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and players like that. There's no game plan that takes them out of the game. They're game plan proof to some extent. They could do better. Those 3 plays they gave him, you can't have those. But him beating double team blocks, you can't game plan around that.
Yeah, no, that's why these guys they call them game changing type plays. I mean,
I'd like one. I want one.
Yeah, somebody in our Slack channel, I forget exactly who said it, said we need to get a Joey Bosa. And I replied, there's like 6 of those human beings in the world at any time.
Yeah, one's weirdly his brother.
Yeah, maybe there's another Bosa in the family tree coming up. I don't know. But I want one too, absolutely. But there's not a lot of those guys. And there's a reason there's not a lot of these guys. And they are franchise-altering, dominant players. Khalil Mack, maybe another one of them. Maybe we can pry him from the Bears, but it's not going to be easy to find a guy like that. And it changes the entire, he can single-handedly, he's one of the few guys. His brother last year I thought should have been in the MVP conversation. He changed that franchise and defense around so much. So you can game plan all day. I mean, it was like J.J. Watt in his prime. Teams game planned around him all day, and he just destroyed them anyway.
Yeah, and I think Chris made another comment that they certainly could have done better. It wasn't a great plan 100%. Against him, but even with a great plan, he's still going to make plays. So, as you get past there, I thought that, for the first time, we saw the Bills' run game kind of salt away a game at the end. It got lost because I think everyone was so caught up in the refereeing in the moment and the couple turnovers that those things were happening with, the Josh Allen pick, the fumble, the Devin Singletary fumble. All those things were happening in the middle of a bunch of bad penalty calls that I think we kind of missed. That the Bills ended up running the ball 30 times for 172 yards. Zach Moss was 9 for 59. Devin Singletary, 11 for 82. Both guys at 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. That was really nice. And the majority of that all coming in the second half of that game when they needed it to. So it wasn't perfect, but it was the kind of game where towards the end, we were able to salt away and run a 4-minute offense for the first time in a while. And, again, some of those were really ugly with that weird penalty caused field goal drive at the end. But that was in a critical moment to put it back to 2 possessions. So this was, despite some weirdness around it, I think probably the best running game we've seen since the Raiders game all the way back in week 3.
Yeah, Singletary was having a very nice game until he coughed up that fumble, and it stinks because it really does take away a nice game for him. It was sort of flashback to last year. He was just patient running, and when he found it, he had that little bit of burst that he has, and he was picking up nice chunks of yards, 7.5 yards a carry. I'm not a big yards per carry guy, but this is what we've talked about is we don't need this running game to be them running 20 times, 25 times a game. The carries wasn't so much the problem, is the efficiency that was going to be the problem with them, and they upped their efficiency by light years here in this game this week. And some of that I think has to do with the injuries to the Chargers interior defense and getting Feliciano. So things were just kind of lined up real nice for this game for them to get going. But I agree with you. Being able to salt that game away towards the end, they had 2 back-to-back 20-plus yard runs, which we love, toxic differential runs.
Huge.
Right before that happened, 5 minutes happened. I tweeted out that it was tied up 5-5. Then Trey gets the takeaway, and then 2 huge runs back-to-back, and that's game-changing type stuff there, and that is what you need to seal a win. So they relied nicely on the run, and it came through for them when they needed it the most.
Yeah, I mean, getting some of those in those huge moments are why we spend so much time talking about toxic differential. They were critical in those moments to be able to do that. So, continuing moving down through the performance, the receivers, I think, did well in what they were asked. I think Stephon Diggs was open for a touchdown on that initial play. He got interfered with, so we got the 47 yards anyways. Cole Beasley was not used as often today. I thought there was a couple times they could have gone to him. I loved that quick hot read that they got the quick first down with, and obviously the gimmick play for the double pass was fun. To have him throw a touchdown to Gabe Davis was cool. The Gabe Davis play we'll get to in a bit. He got the touchdown from Cole Beasley and came down with a grown man catch over top of a guy later on. So I don't think today was the best game we've had. It was weird that Stephon Diggs didn't have a catch in the first half, ended up getting 7 for 39 in the second half, so kind of a concerted effort to get the ball back to him. It was fine. I don't think there were any great performances, not anything miraculous, making stuff happen after the catch, but it was a solid game from the receivers, same way, it wasn't Josh's best game, so it's hard for them to have a great game.
Yeah, exactly. I think it starts with the attempts, 25 attempts, completed only 18 of them. It's hard to get a lot of receptions to go around for guys. I saw some frustration that Cole Beasley wasn't getting the ball enough, and I agree. I think the offense moves at a much smoother pace as far as moving the ball up and down the field when it's Diggs and Beasley just picking up first downs left and right, but sometimes that's not going to be there. Sometimes the quarterback's not throwing at the level where everybody's going to be able to get those types of numbers throughout a whole game. I did like in that second half where they really were feeding Diggs. I love, even if it's just a drive or two where you attack that. He's your number one guy. You finally have a guy that you can just feed as often as possible until they figure out a way to stop it. So that was good to see. And the last thing that was really good to see was Gabriel Davis stepping up in place of John Brown. It wasn't the biggest, flashiest game, but he had a nice route on that deep ball and ended up coming down, mossed that dude. And that's exactly what you want to see. That's exactly what we heard at a training camp was this dude can just catch whatever over anybody. I don't remember the last time we had a guy where you trust that type of throw that he's going to go up and get it over him. So that was nice to see because he kind of went silent for a couple weeks here. So it's good to see him kind of pick up, especially with the idea that John Brown's going to be out here for the next 3 games or next two more games here at a minimum. You really want to see Davis continue to progress like that. So fine overall, considering how little the passing game was effective today.
Yeah, both Cliff and MD here talking about how big of a difference it does make. I don't know if it's just that simple, but the side-by-side stats of with John Brown and without John Brown are so dramatic it's hard to argue with. Like it certainly is a thing, and there were times where you saw Josh looking for an open receiver that having somebody else who is that much of a threat on the outside opposite Diggs I think does change a little bit, and I think it opens things up underneath for Beasley more. Out of the receiving weapons and things like that, I didn't see a lot from Dawson Knox.
Just the touchdown.
I would say, and I will say the touchdown he deserves credit for because he saved Josh Allen from a not great catch or not great pass.
Yep.
So I'll give him credit for that. Beyond there, not a lot in seeing anything there. Lee Smith had, a catch and 3 yards. So our tight ends together had 2 catches for 5 yards. So that is delightful. We still don't have a tight end one on this roster. I know many people were talking about Croft versus Knox in the pregame, but Croft is more trustworthy, but he's not special or anything great either. So again, we don't have a weapon there, and everyone's excited about Gabe Davis stepping up. My biggest concern with John Brown missing is I like Gabe Davis as a 4th weapon. That is a big upgrade. That is something that really stresses the defense. When he's your 3rd option and now you need somebody else, Dawson Knox, Isaiah McKenzie, whoever, to be your 4th option, teams aren't afraid of that. Defenses aren't afraid of that. People can cover that. So it really does push him up into a spot he's probably not quite ready for yet. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only so much he can do there. I think the frustration should be on the lack of Isaiah McKenzie, Andre Roberts, and whoever else is going to be that 4th option, Dawson Knox. Some of the Knox stuff, tight end stuff in general, I go back and watch that a little bit this week because I don't know how much it is that it's Dawson Knox not getting open or not being good, or just this offense, he's the last read, or I don't know what his snap count was for the day. I know he was chipping on Bosa a number of times. He was part of that plan to kind of work that. So that's another thing they got to take into account in a game like this with a monster like Bosa is some of those guys are going to be kind of held in. I think that's probably why Lee Smith was activated today to help in that blocking, being that extra lineman.
Yeah, you will see where that goes. One last thing on the receivers, Chris here asking, or talking about Isaiah Hodge and Cody asking about him. He returned to practice this week. He hadn't practiced all season, so I didn't expect him to be activated. He's eligible. They have 2 more weeks to decide, do they want to activate him? If they don't, they have to put him on season-ending IR, similar to the deadlines they had for John Feliciano coming off and similar for the deadlines they had for Tommy Sweeney, which unfortunately went a different direction. The last one on offense, I thought the offensive line was okay today. I think they deserve credit for opening up some of those rushing lanes, especially late. I think they struggled with Joey Bosa because everyone struggles with Joey Bosa. They moved Bosa around a lot, so Bosa took advantage of Darrell Williams. Williams does not do well against speed around the edge. That's what Joey Bosa does. So I thought that I don't think the line looked as bad as what the Bosa highlight reel made them look, but I thought obviously they weren't perfect because they did let up some pressure. I thought a little bit of the pressure was on Josh holding the ball, and he could do a little bit better there as well.
I think first glance, I hate to really evaluate the offensive line right after the game because it's so hard, but Winters still seems to be, I really have been pounding the table.
Did you see, it looked like they swapped them at one point, like they started left and right and then flipped Feliciano to the other side. It was for a drive. I lost track if they continued to do it or if they moved them back, but I definitely saw them flip for one drive.
Yeah, and I really have been pounding the table that, all right, if we get Feliciano back at his natural position and you have your 4, that you can hide that 5th guy. And I don't know that my reasoning or idea there really held up today. That's something, again, I was
hoping
watch.
It was true too.
Yeah, and maybe you can with somebody a little bit. Maybe you can hide it with Bakker or, I don't know, Bates. I'm not sure, but it didn't seem to be. But obviously they still put together some drives. It's not like it was all horrible and he's the worst offensive lineman in the history. No roster's perfect. I know fans are very frustrated with some of the vulnerabilities on this team. Every team's got a vulnerability at each level of their team. Ours just right this year happens to be Winters. I don't know that the answer's behind him, but it's definitely a problem, and hopefully it gets better as the year goes on. But I'm not sure it was their best day, but nothing glaring. It was great to see Mitch Morse back at center after all
looking
that.
Good too.
Yeah, all that speculation for the last 2 weeks, all put to rest. He looked good. He looked aggressive in the run game, which we really
great
wanted to
out
see.
In front of some of those screens.
Yeah, moves really well. Nice to see him and Feliciano back together. So hopefully they can build on that.
Yeah, a lot of comments in the chat here that Winters is the worst player in the history of football. I have bad news for people. I'm open to Ike Bakker or Ryan Bates getting reps there. They're not materially better than Brian Winters. Now, maybe they can be. I think Ike Bakker is a better run blocker than Brian Winters is, but he also struggles in pass blocking. So I don't think we have a good 5th lineman or good other guard on the roster right now. Our best chance is who is the least detrimental. I would say today, Brian Winters looked detrimental, and I'm open to a swap. That swap does not mean we're bringing in an all-pro. We don't have an all-pro hiding in the wings. Maybe we have a slightly less bad guy, but people need to settle down on what is in the background here with some of those other guys that just aren't that special.
And just like the talk we had 4 weeks ago about AJ Klein and people saying it can't get any worse. It can always get worse.
Yes.
It can be much worse than what Winters has done. Like I said, this offense
Klein
still
is a
moved
great
the ball.
example of patience.
Yeah, you got to have patience. You got to a little bit trust in the coaching staff who are seeing these guys every day. And I think as fans, sometimes we need to pull back and understand that, again, there's never been a perfect roster in the history of football, and every team has guys that are vulnerabilities. It's just the way. That's why you have a salary cap. It's why there's so much parity across the league. It's just part of football.
Or maybe Brian Winters is the Nathan Peterman alignment. He might also be that too.
If it's going to be, it's got to be Bakker though, because he was their guy. They brought Bakker, and so we'll see.
Before we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, we want to announce our gift card winner for T-Shirt University. So our guy, this was one on iTunes. So Sully RT, the winner of the T-Shirt University gift card, reach out to us in DMs, get us the address we can send it to. Really appreciate it. Anybody else, give us a rating, give us a review. It really helps us out. Appreciate it very, very much. So
I got this shirt at T-Shirt University.
There you go. There you go. I should have got this one, but I did wear Stephon Diggs' shirt for his birthday. So this one, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that one deserved
Happy birthday,
it.
Stephon.
Yeah, hey, all right, switching over to the defensive side of the ball, I think relative to the competition, relative to how good this offense had looked, today was the best defensive performance by the Buffalo Bills this season.
I don't disagree. I have been on the show saying that they are trending in the right direction. A lot of guys that people said had to get cut, have been playing really well. I think that helps raise the level of the defense. Seeing Levi Wallace back healthy, back on the field, I think helped get that to where they are. Tremaine Edmonds looks back.
Oh, fast.
To me, he looks fast. It looks like that injury's behind him. I don't know if he's still dealing with it or not, but it looks like it's gone. Some of this patience that we talk about a lot, and people were so frustrated with Tremaine at the beginning of the year and what to do with him. And is he going to even be on this team after this? That's crazy talk. The same with AJ Klein, still not ideal. I want Matt Milano back. I don't want AJ Klein playing the amount of plays he had, but he had a significant impact in this game.
So all the comments on AJ Klein, and I'm just as guilty of saying, hey, they found a niche for him, and it's just when they're blitzing him and being aggressive. AJ Klein had a great football game today, full stop. He was excellent today. He had some sideline to sideline tackles we have not seen all day. He had that one down at the goal line that ended up being the reason that we ended up getting that fourth down turnover stoppage, because on third and whatever it was, I apologize. He caught Troy Maine Pope out to the side, or maybe Josh Kelly out to the sideline on an awesome angle that all season long we saw the running back beat him to the corner. So whatever he did to be able to get that there, he had a great game today. So 14 tackles, 10 solo tackles, 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss. AJ Klein was a monster today. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been trending in the right direction, playing well. That's the frustrating part, and I fall into it too. I'm not absent from being able to be a fan and in the moment, but you have to trust that when the coaches continue to put a guy out there, that they trust that it's the best thing that they have on their team to be the answer. Taryn had a really nice game, I thought. Somebody earlier here
that
in the
fourth down stop. He came around the corner and closed down really tight to the line. A lot of times corners coming off the edge will loop that and get too deep. The fact that he cut that so shallow right down off the tackle's butt and was able to get that, he was a huge part of that fourth down stop.
Keenan Allen had 4 catches for 40 yards.
I mean, Keenan Allen had 16 catches last week.
Yes. And I would have been fine if he got those catches, but I won't lie, man. When I was watching the tape and I watched Eric's video on Keenan Allen, I got really worried about AJ Klein and Taron Johnson in this game and thinking it kept me up. What are these guys going to do? These are guys that, especially Taron, that I've pounded the table for, I thought they were going to struggle all day. And a bunch of people seemed surprised that Keenan Allen was lined up in the slot and Trey was not able to shadow him throughout the game. I didn't expect that. I expected there to be a lot of matchups for Taron, a lot of matchups for the linebackers, and to hold Keenan Allen to 4 receptions of 40 yards. I will take targets. That every single day of the week. Yeah, he didn't have any easy targets. No. He was blanketed almost all day.
Do you know how infrequently Keenan Allen has less than a 50% catch rate? He has one of the consistently best catch rates in the NFL every single year. He does not have very many games with under a 50% catch rate. 4 catches on 10 targets is awesome.
Yeah, and Taron got home on a couple blitzes. He got to Herbert, hit him a couple times, forced some bad throws. He had a really nice game. Again, a guy that's been trending, in my opinion, in the right direction here for the past month of football, which people wanted him cut a month ago, and he did get benched. Technically, Cam Lewis came in and played for him. So sometimes it's about trusting in the scheme and trusting in the guys in the scheme. And Levi also had a pretty good day today, too. And that's a guy, too, that fans were frustrated. Guy didn't see, which we saw was the starter, Josh Norman. Didn't really see him at all today. I can't even think of a snap where I saw him on the field. Not sure what happened there.
I didn't notice him. Yeah, I don't know that he didn't play snaps. I didn't notice him at all.
That's what I'm saying. I don't remember a Josh Norman anything today. And that might be a good thing. He might have been on the field and in coverage, but I don't see him on the stat line anywhere, and I don't remember him being on the field at all.
So I think if, without looking at the box score, if you ask a lot of fans if the Bills had a good run defense game today, I think everyone's instant reaction would be no, they were terrible in run defense today. And part of that is there were 16 targets to Austin Eckler out of the backfield that probably felt like run game plays.
Sure.
But they gave up 24 carries for 74 yards, and 33 of those were on that one fluky kind of hurry-up offense draw play that caught everybody off guard. It was 23 carries for 51 yards before that at 2.2 yards a carry. It was actually pretty good. I thought the defensive line did really well today. Justin Herbert had been getting rid of the ball really fast. I think they did a good job disguising coverage. I think they blitzed a lot early intentionally to get it in Herbert's head. Then later as the game went, they postured like they were sending more pressure, but would then do those zone drops where you'd have Darryl Johnson out in coverage on one play, or you'd have other guys where you're only sending 4. He just didn't know which 4 were coming.
Right.
And they did more and more of that as the game went on after they were sending 5 and 6 early. A couple of them, the late AJ Klein sack, they sent 6 guys. But I thought the defensive line did a nice job. Way more flash plays out of Ed Oliver, and by far the best game of AJ Epenesa's career so far.
Yeah, I loved what I saw at Epinesa. Jerry Hughes had a couple of really nice pressures in this game as well.
Almost had a swipe of the ball on the
he almost got that one out. The only thing I will say, you got to almost grade this game on a little bit of a curve. the Chargers' run game is not good. I know some of that is Eckler being out, but even with that, their offensive line
a late scratch of Brian Bulaga was probably a sneaky help.
Yes, and Bulaga is probably their only
good
concern of mine on their offensive line. They just haven't been great this year. So some of the defensive success is a little bit on the curve, but still this Chargers team has put up points, has had success in the passing game this year. So you can't take it all away from them, but I think a little bit of a curve on it.
Yeah. Ron picking it out here. There was a play that was a quick out to Austin Eckler that he probably had some space to try to shake him. And Daryl Johnson made a great tackle and the announcer had no clue who Daryl Johnson was.
Yeah.
Not that he should. You probably shouldn't know who Daryl Johnson was, but it was funny.
They will soon.
As for the secondary, again, I thought short of giving me agita that we can't cover Hail Marys, we had back-to-back Hail Marys completed on us in 2 consecutive weeks. Like I spent so much time telling people how fluky that was and how that never happens.
Still is fluky.
How do we have back-to-back Hail Marys completed against us? Thank God this one wasn't for a touchdown and was tackled at the 5-yard line. And then we'll get to it here in a bit. For anybody who tries to come at me telling me that maybe we should have hired Anthony Lynn instead of Sean McDermott, come find me on Twitter. I'll laugh at you for 15 minutes straight. Anthony Lynn is the worst coach in the NFL. It's hidden because he has so much talent on that roster that all the jump balls Mike Allen goes to get and all the plays that Mike Williams goes to get and all the plays Joey Bosa makes for him hides how much he's holding back the talent on this roster. He's the worst in-game coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I love him as a person.
He's a great guy.
I liked him as an offensive coordinator at times here. What he was able to do with Tyrod, I thought there were some fun moments. But yeah, he's a Rex Ryan coach through and through, and it shows up. It's kind of embarrassing how good that Chargers team could be that they only have 3 wins.
I think some coach is going to look awesome. Some coach next year, I think he's going to get fired. And I think a new coach is going to come in and they're going to look amazing because there's so much talent on that roster.
Yeah,
there's some bad injury luck that's not Lynn's fault.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect spot for Brian Dable. Unfortunately, I said it before. A young quarterback who needs to continue to develop tons of weapons, good parts on defense. I don't want him to go, but if I was a coach, I think it's got to be probably the most attractive job that's going to be out there.
So Chris asked a good question here. If you tell me that we get to keep Ken Dorsey and just trade Dable for Anthony Lynn, and Lynn is no longer in charge of like in-game time management and decision making, he's just calling plays, maybe I'll take that. Maybe I'll take him back. He's a good dude. But yeah, I don't want him deciding anything of when to go for it, any of those kind of things. He's not in charge of any of those things if he comes back, but he probably does still have a future in as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, for sure.
So overall, special teams, I don't think was a huge factor, was a benefit for Buffalo. They had a couple nice returns, didn't give up any big returns. They missed an extra point. Bass made all 5 of his kicks, 2 field goals and 3 extra points. The field goals look beautiful. Corey Bojorquez, I think, got penalized a little bit today. He had a rocket of a kick that just barely went into the end zone. It actually bounced straight up from the goal line and came back in to the 2 or 3 yard line that if it was 6 inches back would have been a miraculous punt. But, it just kind of put us in a spot where it was really tough to be able to identify it. So I thought that the special teams was all right today and was in a spot where we're able to, kind of figure out that it's just not, I don't think there was anything negative for it today. So Bojorquez gets a hard time. I thought he had some nice punts today, but I don't disagree. I know our friend Kevin on Twitter goes crazy all the time. I'd like to see him put one inside the 10-yard line once as well. I'd like to see him get the ball out of bounds sometimes and not let it be an option to go into the end zone. But he had some rockets of punts today. There were no shanks today. So anything that's not a shank, I'll take.
Yeah, I mean, do I want the punter to be perfect and do the perfect punting thing? Yes, absolutely. But I just don't want him to be a problem. I don't want to come on this show and talk about what a problem special teams were. And we didn't have that today. I thought kick coverage was really good, and punt coverage for the most part was good.
Yeah. You could tell they were intentionally doing that kind of hang time kickoff, because on the one where Bass had the 5-yard penalty, he put it through the upright, so he can kick it out of the end zone every single time.
Yes.
But now for fans who are curious, why doesn't he do that? The Bills had multiple drives start at like the 8, or for the Chargers at the 18 and one at the 11 on kickoffs. That's a nice advantage. That's like a 14-yard loss for no reason, just because he can get the ball to hang up there and get the returner to be kind of confused and not sure what to do. That's a weapon. They're doing that very intentionally, because he has the ability to get hang time on a kickoff and have it land over towards the edge at like the 5-yard line. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it shows trust in your coverage ability to get down there and make the tackle, right? Like, you only do that if you trust that unit, and they were trustworthy today. The special teams didn't cause any problems, and I'm starting to build a lot of confidence in Bass. With as fluky of a game as this was, that last field goal, I didn't feel particularly comfortable, just because the game was weird, and he's been building confidence for me over the last couple of weeks, big time, and that's huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, it's now consistency. He knows how capable he is. He's getting confident. That's what really goes a long ways with these things, is that we can feel good that, if we have a tie game or we're down by 2 and they need to line him up there for a 55-yard field goal, I'm not like just hoping and praying. Like, I feel good that he's going to make it. I feel like this is great. We got in range. He's going to do this. And I think he feels that way too. And I love the left eye black swagger.
I do too, yeah. As one of our friends that's not a Bills fan was like, I don't like your guys' kicker. He's too, like, kickers shouldn't talk trash and look like that. I was like, give me all the kicker swag you can find.
Yeah, so before we get into our segments that are coming up here, I need to take just a minute to talk about the asinine penalties today. The Bills got called for multiple unsportsmanlike conduct. The one on Josh Allen, I'll give him. I think that happens all the time in the NFL. I think that he spiked the ball towards him and kind of flexed on him. Whatever, they came back. I'm not mad about that one. The one for Zach Moss was horrible.
I didn't see anything.
You can watch on the replay. Zach Moss never even sees the defender and just kind of flicks the ball over his shoulder. He didn't spike it at him. He didn't look at him. He didn't taunt him. The ball technically went towards the defender a little bit. You can see on the replay, he doesn't even see that the defender is there. It was a horrendous call. You had multiple other that really bad holding penalty on Deion Dawkins. You had what was going to be the one Hail Mary. That ref was going to let that stand. He wasn't going to call offensive pass interference that was obviously pass interference. The other ref had to come from across the field to call that. Josh Allen had multiple hits against him that had no penalties. They had one that they did high-low, Justin Herbert with Trey White and Ed Oliver, that I don't think was egregious, but that's going to get called in today's, and you made a great call on Twitter. I would want Josh Allen to get that call as well. But it was just so many questionable calls that really started to stack up at one point. I try to stay away from that. I always assume there's bad calls in both directions. The Bills get the benefit of some. Same thing. You saw the bad interception turnover against the Rams, and then the iffy defensive pass interference at the end. They usually balance out. Today felt like it was 70% against the Bills, and that was just frustrating.
Yeah, I also don't like to blame the refs or get on the refs about stuff, but there were some frustrating ones for sure. I saw a number of AJ Epinesa got held pretty egregiously one time on a big third down play, which ended up being a converted third down, no call. I saw Sierra Neal go flying a couple punt returns, and you can only get pushed in that direction if it's a block in the back, really. Yeah. You can only go forward if it's a block in the back, so it seemed to be a little bit egregious to me. The thing I liked how they called was the Allen fumble ended up being an incomplete pass, letting that play out to the end of the play, calling it a fumble, and then allowing for it to be reviewed. There's nothing worse to me than when refs call, even if it goes against us, when refs call a play dead that shouldn't be called dead. You can always reverse a play, but you can never get it back once the play is called dead. So it's tough. It's a tough game to call, but yeah, it wasn't the best day for NFL officiating in Buffalo today.
Yeah, and again, I think we're pretty even-handed about that. We rarely talk about it here in the post-game shows.
Right.
Today was just an ugly experience for it.
Yeah.
So switching over to our friends over at Uncle Jumbo's. If you guys enjoyed the game today, make sure you're enjoying some Uncle Jumbo's out there, whether it's their Country Lemon, the good old American vodka, they're very good, or all the other delightful canned products like the one over my head here. When you enjoy it, make sure you enjoy it responsibly. Today, I thought there were a couple good examples of responsible play of the game. I'll let you lead off with this one.
Yeah, the one I liked particularly, this is something that we've seen the New England Patriots do for years against the Bills for 20 years, where you catch a team. It was the first drive of the second half, I believe, and you catch a team switching, subbing out a guy. Allen gets everybody to the line really quick. It's a 3rd and 4. And they get to the line fast. They know they're about to sub out, and he gets them. And they ended up getting the first down anyway, but then the flag's thrown. So it's a win-win for you, and it's just a heads-up play in a big spot. First drive of the second half, you have all these third-quarter woes hanging over your head. You want to put this team away. End up getting that third down. They continue that drive and end up going up 24-6 at the time. That's a big part of it, is getting that free play in that moment. And whether or not the play converts, you have the first down.
Yeah, I was the exact same one, and I actually thought we were going to pick the same in the pre-show. I just went with the same one that he did later in the game, where he got them off sides and took the deep shot, the one that you see Aaron Rodgers do on every single primetime game. Yeah. And I love that Josh had the heads up about it. He knew what it was. He knew, he saw the flag, and he wasn't just going to take the check down. He actually was going to go to Diggs deep on the right side, saw it was covered, went back to the single coverage against Gabe Davis and let his athletic, tall receiver take a shot at a 50-50 ball. And Gabe Davis went up and mossed the guy, went up over top of him and pulled the ball out for a huge 44-yard pass. Unfortunately, right after that was the fumble that we saw. Sure. But it didn't take away from the fact that was an outstanding play and a really heads-up, responsible decision by Josh to do it twice.
I think they both play into the same idea of situational awareness. And that comes with coaching that all summer long, that, hey, if we get this situation or try to get them to jump off sides, if we get these free plays, do it. Coaching that in, because this is definitely something that the Bills just haven't done. Since until we got Brian Daboll and Josh Allen together, just never took advantage of those situational opportunities, and you're leaving free yards on the field if you don't take advantage of it.
Yeah. So another responsible decision here. Obviously, this was kind of a mess coming into this week from a COVID standpoint and a positive test standpoint all throughout the NFL. I actually got up early this morning and checked my phone just to make sure they were still going to play games. I didn't think it was a slam dunk that all the games went forward this week. So Ron asking, for anyone who hasn't seen, the Bills will play the 49ers next week. We'll have a preview show for that on Wednesday. But next week, there is now a decision that there can be no high school, college, or professional sports or any large gatherings in Santa Clara County, I think is the area, which happens to be where the 49ers stadium is. The reporting that I'm seeing right now is that the 49ers will be going to Arizona to practice from there all week, and then the game will be held in Arizona. So it's still going to be a Pacific time zone. It's still the same body clock for the 49ers. I say that it's probably a slight benefit to the Bills that it's not a pure home game from the 49ers, but it's the same road game for the Bills. It's just going to be Arizona now versus San Francisco. And honestly, I kind of see this as one of those cheesy things that Sean McDermott's going to take that angle of kind of exercising the Hail Mary demons just to kind of get that out of your mind, to go back into this visitor's locker room in Arizona to get a win and, get that out of your minds, and he'll just find another excuse to put a chip on a team's shoulder. So I think it's still next Monday night. I just think it's going to be in Arizona instead of San Francisco. And I think that is the responsible decision by the NFL to get a game played.
Yeah, I think in this particular scenario, there's probably been some decisions by the NFL that we could probably do an entire show on at this point this year. But I don't think this is one of them. I think trying to get this game done, because we're not seeing an outbreak within the team. We're seeing the county declare something. And Bills fans should brace themselves because, not to get into anything here, Erie County is not heading in the right direction. This could go south quick for the Bills in Erie County. And there might be some where Bills have to play some games off-site. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Not out of the question.
Right now it's trending in a way that would that makes it pretty feasible that could happen. But the thing that scares me about this is there's a scenario where the sort of how the Titans use this us against the world thing, where I can see San Francisco taking this and saying, hey, whoa us, we're going to rally around this. I still don't think they can beat the Bills. We'll get into that on the preview show, but anytime a team has to face adversity, I hate any extra adversity where they can do the us against the world thing. I know it's cliche, but it does work in sports. I've seen it too many times in my life where a team just rallies around some idea, a thought in their head, and they go out and have the best game of their year.
Yeah, it's tough. So we'll figure that out. As we switch over to our friends over at West Her, if you were looking for a vehicle here in the Western New York area, they're actually the largest dealership group in New York State, 23 dealerships and available for all makes and models of vehicles. Go over and find your friends at West Her. And for West Her, when you're looking for a great drive, Aaron, what did you think for the drive of the game today?
Well, you wrote me...
I get a little excited during the game.
During the game to tell me about the best drive of the entire season, which I don't know. You've later pulled back on that. But I agree with you in terms of this game, for sure, and probably recently, that is the best drive. Second quarter, they put together a 7-play, 76-yard drive, take off 4 minutes and 21 seconds off the clock. It was the drive that ended in the Beasley to Davis touchdown, a super fun play. And Dable gets a lot of conversation back and forth, both in our private chats and on Twitter about whether or not he's a good offensive coordinator. But I'll tell you what, he keeps it interesting and puts some fun plays together that scheme up touchdowns, man. He schemes up a lot of touchdowns with these fun trick plays. So it was a nice drive. Before that, though, they put together a nice drive with nice plays and balanced offense. Yeah,
and I thought that it was great because you had seen the Bills go 3 and out on 2 straight drives with a ton of just crazy pressure coming at them. That was the drive where they had multiple screenplays, multiple draws, an RPO, play action, and hit them with the gimmick play for the double pass from Beasley to Davis. And having that combination, I was really impressed with Dable answering the pressure. And people give him a hard time, and he wasn't perfect today. There were some questionable calls today. But that kind of thing is an adjustment. That is an in-game adjustment to them being over-aggressive. How do you counter that? You come back with screens, draws, RPOs, play action. Those are the things that you get them off of your back, and they were able to do that. I thought that another worthy one was that drive starting the third quarter, and that coming out with a nice return, multiple nice plays. That was the first start of getting the run kind of established and ending up with the nice Josh Allen rushing touchdown where he got the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. But that one put them up 24-6 and really kind of put the game away at that point. The Chargers never really got it back within, all that much closer to be able to end things. So I really thought those were both really strong drives for the game.
Yeah, I loved that start of the third quarter one just because all week, 2 weeks now, we've just been talking about third quarter woes, and the defense didn't really answer any questions, especially in the third quarter. I don't think they played particularly.
Yeah, for their best game of the year, the third quarter was rough again.
Yeah, it was. And it was trending in the wrong way to end the third quarter even. But to start off the third quarter, that's why you defer, because you're confident that you're going to get the ball and go down and score, and they did exactly what they had to. And so love to see that. Love to see Andre Roberts again for whatever the 5th time this year, taking a return and starting a drive hot with an explosive play. So again, I think that was probably a nice runner-up for a drive of the game.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. So as we kind of step back and look at this one as a whole, this was a big one for the Bills to get to just kind of catch their breath, cleanse that Hail Mary from their mind. Certainly could be 9-2 right now, but 8-3 is really solid. Doesn't look like they got a ton of favors from any of the other games. I think New England won and beat Arizona on a last-minute field goal. The Dolphins were probably more competitive with the Jets than they wanted to be, but held that off as well. So still a 1-game lead in the division. Tennessee beat the Colts, so they technically take back that head-to-head tiebreaker and now take the 3 seed. So the Bills are sitting there at the 4 seed. And the other 8-3 team in the AFC are the Cleveland Browns, who took it to the the Jaguars and barely held on today. So if the playoffs started today, the Bills would be the 4 seed playing the Cleveland Browns, and then would be playing the Steelers coming off a bye. So honestly, if you told me that was the playoffs right now, that they'd have a home game against the Browns and then would go and play the Steelers, and the Chiefs and the Titans would be on the other side of the bracket, I don't think I'd be upset.
Yeah, I feel fine. I'm totally confident with that. And that's where I have the Bills is. I know a lot of people saw them at the 3 seed last week and thought they would just coast that in the playoffs. Every playoff simulator or whatever that I've done, I end up having them at the 4th seed. So I think that's where they're going to probably end up. And I'm totally comfortable with them being a 4 seed. I mean, these are the problems I've wanted for my entire adult life, man. So sign me up.
Yeah, if we're haggling over which wildcard team we get to host at home for our playoff game, okay. I'm fine with that. I'm not worried about playing the Browns, Dolphins, Colts, or Raiders. I'm just not worried about playing any of them. It's and now I think half the roster for the Ravens has COVID, so I don't really know.
I don't even know if they're going to play.
I don't even know if they're going to play a game here. Yeah. So it does look like I think the Chiefs are destroying the Buccaneers right now. And somebody in the chat said that Tyreek Hill has like 200 yards in the first quarter. So that's interesting. Any final thoughts here for the people before we wrap things up?
Yeah, enjoy this. It's Christmas season. It's a weird year. None of us have had much normalcy this year. So having the Bills be an 8-win team heading to December is the greatest Christmas feeling that I could ever think of. I think they're going to be able to stack a couple wins together here. I don't love primetime football, but the people that do, this is what you've always asked for, a whole month of Bills being the national game in the spotlight. So hopefully we get some fun football, but the Bills really control their own destiny right now. And this is the coolest feeling in the world. This is what we've wanted. I know you're way older than me, Greg, but still your entire adult life's been the same as mine of just suffering through mediocre teams where this time of year we're adding up all these different math concepts of how they can even hang on to being in the hunt. They're in the driver's seat, man. Oh, yeah. This is awesome.
They control everything here. They got an important win. They're 8-3. They have, these games against the 49ers in Arizona, the Bills are going to be favored in that game. It's a home game against Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh will deserve to be favored by a couple points, but the Bills can win that game.
That's a coin toss to me.
Yeah, then they're going to go at Denver, at New England. They're going to be probably favored in both of those games, and I think that those are tough games on the road that you need to not trip up. And then they're going to be home against the Dolphins to end the season. They're going to be favored there. So it's going to be a lot of tight games down the stretch here. 4 consecutive primetime games, just like you said, miserable for you and I, but fun for other people and for national attention. And I like the Bills getting national attention, for that sense of it, because it makes fans feel better. I hate it because I'm going to watch the game anyways. It doesn't matter to me, but it's just an interesting position but now they've put themselves in this spot to go on a fun run to end the season, lock up the division for the first time in 25 years, lock up a home playoff game for the first time in 25 years, be able to put yourself in this position to win a playoff game that we haven't seen in a long, long time. And I'm excited to be able to do it alongside you. So, Aaron, where can the good people find you?
At Aaron Quinn 716, and as always, in Gregory Thompson's mentions, if you can't find my name.
Come and find me at Greg Tompsett. Big thank you to our sponsors at West Her and for presenting us here tonight, Uncle Jumbo's. Thank you for Greg Tompsett. Thank you on behalf of Aaron Quinn. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.